Hey guys, it's Quinn here, and there's a part store of Bearstone of me reading it, Will Hobbs Bearstone. Let's get back where we left off. Number 12. Today was a big day. Cloyd and Walter had been up since 4 in the morning shuttling the pack horses, mining equipment, food, and camping gear to the trailhead at the end of the road up to Pine River. It was mid-afternoon, and thunderclouds were gathering over the mountains. On their third and last trip to the trailhead, they stopped in a bayfield to buy the last-minute supplies. Walter brought a fishing rod to Cloyd and hooks and salmon and eggs. Used to be good in fishing on the Pine, but it still is. If you trout don't like the salmon eggs, you can dig worms with the camp shovel or catch grasshoppers. You can catch us some fresh dinner and now again. They drove up the river road. Cloyd could hardly believe he was finally going to the mountains. A few miles north, Walter pulled up by the Pine River Cemetery. He told Cloyd he could wait a few minutes to come along. Cloyd looked in the saddle horses in the gooseneck trailer, Bully Boy, and Old Man Sorrel mare. While Walter walked in the little cemetery, then he caught up with the old man in front of a pair of gloves. At the far end of the plot was centered a single stone. Cloyd recognized the name Landis. Underneath there was two names, and one of them was Walter's. Why is your name on this? Cloyd asked in undisguised confusion. Walter scratched the thick white bristles on his beard. It was almost grown out again. All they have to do is just put the date on. Make it easy, makes it easy. Cloyd picked the dandelions and picked the flowers on the grass. If you don't know what dandelions are, search it on Google or something. He thought about Walter in the box under the grass. Do you have any relatives? There's a few still around. My brother's on the Animas River down in New Mexico, and my wife's kin are back in Missouri. Suddenly, the wind began to blow. Cloyd woke up from gravestones and saw the black clouds racing towards them from the mountains where the lightning flashed and raining hung in dark layers. He was chilled in his t-shirt, but he wanted to hear Walter talk. Are you people still alive after they die, like they say? I don't know really. Lots of folks believe there is life after death. But nobody knows for sure. Maybe your life is all there is. But that's plenty, ain't it? Make it good while you have it. Is that what I think in case there's nothing extra? Live in a good way. That's what my grandmother says. That's a fine way to put it. The clouds overtook them and darkened the Pine River Valley. Thunder rumbled more frequently along the lightning struck. Few miles upriver, the confusion in unraveling, thunder falling behind. Coming our direction, Walter remarked with some anxiety. Cloyd didn't want to cut off this talk with the old man. It was important. They could always run through a truck. How come you stopped there to talk with your wife? Well, in a way, to tell her I'm going back to the mine, I guess. But she can't hear you. Probably not. It's more of a matter of respect. How do you mean? Showing honor of her? I wouldn't do something this important without consulting her if she was alive. Matter of fact, he chuckled. I wouldn't be doing it at all. But seeing the circumstances, she wouldn't mind. She said, you go up there with Cloyd to that mine of yours to find your gold. But she isn't alive. No, that ain't right. Somehow, as long as I'm alive, she is too. Like she's a part of you? People get like that, Cloyd. That's what special is about people. The wind stopped abruptly. And Walter that claustrophobic feeling that he got when the air pressure was dropping fast around him. Say, we better shake a leg. That's funny, he said, and turned from a grave. The old man wasn't much for running, but he shuffled along as briskly as he could. They were barely inside the truck there when the wind and the rain struck. Let's wait her out, Walter said. No sense of driving of this. Cloyd reached into his jeans pocket and pulled out the Bearstone, set it onto the dashboard. I want to tell you a secret about this, he said. Walter pried the stone up close, the turquoise bear. He nearly destroyed his anger in some peace. He said, foreheads dished out like a grizzly's, and the bulge here on the back, it's almost like it's a hump. I found it with one of the ancient ones, a baby in those rocks out there above your farm. In the cliffs, a burial. Why, if that ain't something. Bears are special for UT people. They bring strength and good luck. All the more reason you got yourself something special here. And Walter said, I think how old this stone must be. This blueberry's a real treasure. Cloyd, when I found this, I gave myself a secret name. The UTs used to do that. They kept it secret except for one other person. You only the one I ever tell my secret name. It's a lone bear. That's what it is, lone bear. Cloyd injected it what it mean. The name Cloyd has taken for himself. It seemed like awfully lonesome name. He wondered if a turquoise piece would bring the good luck of boy was hoping for, Cloyd, some of that good luck just might rub off on the pride of the West. Chapter 13. Walter bruised Cloyd when it was still dark in their camp at the trailhead. By the light of the gas lantern, they set to work sorting their gear into 8 loads for the 8 pack horses. After sunrise, Cloyd brought the horses into camp from the meadow by the river where they'd been hobbled overnight. The pack horses stamped their feet and shielded from the horses' wooden frames swift towards them. The pack and dragged them all morning. Cloyd would hardly believe all the gear they were taking with them. 2 groups of backpackers left up the trail while they were working. Finally, the last knot was tied, the riding horses saddled. Cloyd and Walter led their animals to the wooden gate between the parking lot and the beginning of the trail. What's the sign say? Cloyd asked. Wimuchi Wilderness Area. No motorized vehicles beyond this point. Cloyd looked up a trail and saw it climb through a dense stand of pines. The trunks were far enough apart allowed even to jump through. Why do they have to say that? He asked. Why, that means motorbikes, I suppose, and snowmobiles in the winter. Good thing too, our horses spooky enough without having to contend with motors. That Wimuchi there. That's the name of the UTs who used to live up there. I know my grandmother said that we're the Wimuchi. That ain't that something. And they were underway, each leading a string of 4 pack horses. Walter rode in front of his sorrel name. Cloyd followed on a big blue roan. Canyon soon narrowed, and the trail climbed well above the river. Cloyd found himself looking down the hundreds of feet. Sorry, my camera's shaky. And the pool's so clear he could see the stones in the bottom, above them rock-slide paths fell through the spruce again and an aspen forest from the peaks. As high as they were, their peaks weren't the towering, jagged ones he'd seen for the cliffs that first day at the barn. Before long, he could stand at the top of the very highest and look out over the world. The farther they worked their way up Pine, the more Chloe marveled at the steady gait and sure-footedness of the roan. When the horse had a chance, he swiveled his eye back around the catch of the side of the boy. There was something Cloyd had been turning over and over his mind, and now he decided that it was time to ask the old man about it. Is it true, like you said, that horses don't care about anything about you? The old man hitches himself of the saddle and halfway turned around and he said, You mean like Rusty said? Don't pay no mind to his talk. He just hates to agree with anybody. It's just the way he is. But is it true? It's always puzzled on that, same as you. Horses appreciate good treatment and it's steady as stand, but it's a fact. They don't go out on their way to fetch your slippers. Maybe some really do care. I had one of them too and made me think so, but it seems like you never know for sure. What do you think? Oh, I was just wondering. Clay, mostly disappointed with the old man's answer, as they rode, he continued to run over it. In his mind, he warned forward and patted the roan, Blue Boy. He thought, you're not just any horse. You and me, Blue, you and me. The roan wooed an eye back and snorted loudly. The next day the horses warried up ever steeper grades. As the river fell in leaps for the high country, Clay watched the strain carefully as he crossed the tricky scree slides of a fine rock that ran below them, all the way to the river. Several times during the day they forded with swift creeks that fed the pine. With little urging, the road crossed them easily. Others behind accepted his leadership. Late in the afternoon, they climbed the canyon onto the large meadow, astonishingly green with high grass and rare by the mountains that straddles a bar above the line, where the trees stopped growing. A small stream here closed the continental divide. The Pine River looked quietly into delicate meanders through the meadow. Walter said they lay over through the meadow. Walter said they lay over a day or two before they went to the snowslide canyon or the mine. Clay was happy to make a camp as he'd been riding. He's seen the troop darting through the riffles between the pools safe set up a sheep herder tent in the trees at the meadow's edge. At first light, Clay was digging up worms in the black soil underneath the trees. On a meadow, he sneaked up on the pool where the spade drift into likely spot. In a moment, the rod came alive in his hands as he watched the flashing trout in the air, and over his head, a large cutthroat in its orange-red colors lay gasping in the grass. It was the first fish he ever caught in the beginnings, and a meal of them an old man. He remembered his grandmother saying that when the Mumunichi lived in the mountains, some of them were so skilled that they couldn't catch fish with their bare hands. That didn't seem possible, but now they knew they must have felt the caught of the lightning fast. How about they ever did it? Midway up the middle, Clay caught a second trout in his third at the upper, where the stream came up rushing in the trees. He discovered that fishing was better if he kept trying the new water than if he stayed with one hole. Even when he could see plenty of the trout here, it seemed they would strike pretty quick or not at all. Not at all. He decided to look upstream in the trees for another good place to fish. After walking around the rapids through the thick spruce forest, and he found even bigger, more of a promising meadow above. As Chloe began to fish up the upper meadow, light clouds boiled up the blue sky, and quickly turned dark. The wind started to blow, and he was too excited to notice the wind over clouds. He was winning trout several times several miles from the camp. At the far end of the upper meadow, he caught his seventh, and he slid the new caught fish onto the stringer. He fashioned it from the willow branch. He shook with the cold and realized the temperature had been dropping for some time. He'd been out to fish longer than he thought. Without the sun, it was hard to judge the time, but it could be the past noon already. He saw the clouds spill down the mountainsides towards him, dark and loaded with moisture. With a few more pools, maybe one more fish, he could collect his trout and head for the camp. Lightning broke loose and thunder rumbled not too far off. A cold wind rushed down the meadow. He wished he wore more than a t-shirt. He hadn't thought he would be out long. He knew to run for it. The storm was about to break as he got to the stranger and started out. Lightning cracked barely upstream. The shocked wave and his surprise threw him to the ground. Glancing back, he saw the big spruces bending under the weight of the line wind, and Hale angling down at terrific speed. Chloe thought he could raise the Hale in the trees between the meadows and nestle under a good roof of branches. He ran for the trees with the rod held high in his right hand with a stringer of trout in his left. He ran with laughing heart because the Hale was already pounding the window, pounding the... Sorry, my books. I need to hold a book. Pounding the meadow behind him, and yet as full as he sped, he would outrun. It was just in time. With no warning, his right leg sank into the hip, his chest and face struck the ground. Rod and stringer, a fish flew. In tall grass, he failed to see the narrow trench connecting the stream with the pond where the beavers had built one of their dormant lodges. Pain coursed through his leg. He was sure he hurt it badly. With his weight on the left knee, Corey dragged the right leg out the beaver running away on his left side. Watching the wall of the hill advance down the meadow, he had to wait in the pain to clear. Lightning ripped the meadow and similarly tastelessly with its defeating thunder. The heartbeat later and a hail struck. String stinging him and bouncing all around in the grass. Within seconds, he was drenched and started to shake with cold. His t-shirt and jeans clung to him. They offered no protection. The feeling went out of his fingers. He lay motionless, unable to think. In a minute, the meadow was carpeted with the wear of the hail. All of a sudden, it was winter. Clyde had been seeing hailstorms in the high desert. But not like this one. The air itself, he had turned freezing cold. Shaken now as a fear as well as cold, he forced himself to think. Managing another 100 yards of the trees meant nothing now. He had to reach camp. The old man in the fire, freezed to death. He tried the way it could take some of his weight. Nothing was broken. Clay knew he was going to start out immediately, but somehow it seemed important not to leave a rod and the fish behind. They couldn't be far as he raked through the hail, flattened grass with his sneakers. He realized he couldn't feel his feet. There was a rod. He scraped it out and cleaned his fingers around it. Lucky for him, it wasn't broken. Here was a new trail and stiff and staring. Then he ran as best as he could, shaking, tripping, falling. The hail turned out to cold and not ready to steady rain. Something told him he had no chance of the ledge. They lay came down from lower meadow. He had to find a trail. Was there a trail? He hadn't been seeing one all day. Maybe there would be one on the far side of the meadow across the stream. Clay couldn't feel the icy water as he plunged across the Pine River, holding up his rod and feel the red as fish. In fact, he stopped shaking and couldn't feel anything at all. His body was getting too cold, much too cold. Across the meadow, he found a trail and hastened windily down it. After a while, he was in a tree the way the trail felt sharply muddy and slick. Turning his land that he feared through dark shaped as in a dream. No sign of a lower meadow, and the old man was cold, was squeezing his life out of him. Through the dark trace of the rail of the stream, a small patch of orange caught his eye. His mind dismissed his image, but he stumbled for it, walked hard toward the idea of the orange color slowly its way to the surface. It was a tent. Clay stopped and stared at the trees, at a trace of blue smoke hanging in the dark branches about the tent. He could barely move. It took him a long time to reach the orange tent. Now he stood dumbly by the remains of fire. There was no fire here, only a bit of blue smoke curling around the soggy stud of the log. Clyde faced the tent. I need help, he said thickly. Someone with the tent, flappy young man with the glasses and dark beard, and cursed in surprise. The man came out of the tent that took away the rod and fish and forced him to the ground. Inside the small and orange tent, cursing softly, the man said not to worry. He rummaged through the sack, muttering something about Long John's. The man with the beard pulled Clyde's left clothes. Long John's. You mean Long John Silver? That's the way I like it. The boy looked curiously at his own body. It didn't seem to belong to him. He noticed he was shaking anymore. He didn't even feel cold. The man was dressing in different clothes. It took a long time. His elbows kept poking his head. Everyone's orange orange all around. The bearded man was stuffed Clay into his sleeping bag and asked if he felt warmer. Couldn't even answer. He was all alone. The man had left. He could, the cold and quiet creeped in one another comfortably. The world went dark. He found himself falling asleep. He drifted deeper and deeper into the dark, like a leaf standing in the bottom of a deep pool. He was almost perfectly peaceful. He was so close and perfectly sheep when something intruded, one far away, nagging the tail. He couldn't even tell it was what it was, intruded. After a while, it was some kind of noise very far away, a magpie or a raven squawking, or possibly even his sister looking for him in canyons, calling him again and again. Yes, it was a human's voice after all, nagging, calling, existing, shouting. It wasn't his sister. Gradually, light seeped into his eyes. He saw the man with the glasses and the black beard. Who was he? Sorry. The world was moving. No, he was moving. Being dragged outside of the orange tent in the dark trees. Sleeping bag and all, the man's glasses were fogged up. The man lay alongside him, on his elbows rolling on the wet wood, making smoke. Some coals were glowing. The man kept wincing on him. Finally, they were burst into flame. The man placed in a little stick across the flame and left again. Branches were breaking somewhere. The tiny flame was gone. The man was back in his armful of wood, and then he was on his elbows again, blowing until his face turned purple. The flame came back until until the wood started to catch. The man left. Branches were breaking. After the time, he was back peeling the branches over the fire, blowing into the stronger and stronger flames. The flame grew brighter and stronger than the rain, dripping through the trees. The bearded man was fogged up with pulling for him in the sleeping bag. Standing close to the fire, arms locked around his chest, he could feel everything in the fire spreading over his body. You're going to be all right, the man was saying. Chloe struggled to get free on his sleeping bag. The man unzipped it, let it fall, began a new hill into him. Chloe struggled again. Hang on there, the man cautioned. You're still medium rare, going to cook on you until you're broiled, okay? While Chloe's eyes cleared, the man turned him loose. He could stand by the fire on his own. The man went for more wood. After many trips, he built a bonfire. At its edge, he boiled the water in an ammonium. Hannah made coffee. When Chloe drank it, he warmed for it inside out and last became warm as he could want to be. Think I'll clean your fish, if you don't mind, the man said. They better make a great hot meal for you. Better than my free dry stuff. You just stay away from the fire there and make some more coffee if you like. Chloe nodded. The man went away through the trees and cleaned the fish at the stream. After he'd been gone some time, Walter Chloe rode into camp in his yellow rain slicker, winning the roan. Thank goodness you're okay, Chloe, he said softly. Walter's eye took in the oversized clothes that weren't the boys', and the brood yellow and a right eye along scratched his neck, the jeans of the teacher dying in the fire. I've been everywhere. I was afraid I wouldn't find you. I caught 7 fish, Clyde said. The stranger came back with the fish clean and neatly arranged the little brain stringer. Walter drank coffee with him and pieced together what were happened, and Clyde tended the frying trout. The young man gave Clothing a poke. You must grate a taste of the trout, the way he hung on to him. The shy smile brightened into the boy's face. I guess so, he said. Never tasted so warm or so good. Chloe thought that was the 3 of them stirred of the fish, except maybe new made flatbread. Chloe saw the worry finally leaving the old man's face. It seemed like the time to explain he could have been so stupid. I could have found the dry place in the trees, but I was running and fell in a hole. The old man blinked at the stranger and chuckled from the looks of it. The ground threw up and hit you in the face. They all laughed. Chloe pulled on his t-shirt and jeans, not only dry, they were almost too hot for comfort. The Walter into his mare employed Chloe's denim jacket for his saddlebags. Chloe dismantled the fishing rod, then sawed by the fire, turning his hands over. Even they were warm already. They wanted to say something to a young man. he wouldn't have a chance to show it like the Walter. Thank you, he said. Her eyes met for a moment. You didn't have to. You didn't even know me, and you. No big deal. The stranger said quickly. You had done the same thing for me. For 2 days, they rested in their campsite by the meadow when Clay recovered his strength. They sat for a mine past the upper meadow where Clay had been caught up by the cloud burst. Orchard reading the mare and motioned the boy and a string of pack horses alongside. The canyon there, he pointed indicating the steep side of the mountains across the river at Snowslide, part of the west about up its ways. Wouldn't be long now. They forded the river and away from it up Snowslide Creek. Clay took a last hook up into the pine of the river. He knew at once he found what he'd been looking for. A snow peak rising low and high above. The others had just come in to reveal a sharp peak riding along in the turquoise sky. What's that? He called, and the old man, that mountain over there, that one yonder, why that rotten granny pyramid, looks like one, don't it? That's where the raw granite river gets started, flows out the other side, the side of the mountain, all right. Supposed to have been a grizzly and two cubs straight about 10 years ago. You know what it is? Grizzly bears. That's right. Used to be plenty of the country. That's what some years ago. Of course, we still have black bears, but this man saw the 3 grizzly bears. They said they was hunting mermaids about the tree line. Most folks thinks he saw big cinnamon, with the blackberries brown. The last grizzly bear found in the state of the Colorado, or surf of Wyoming, or for that matter, was killed near there in 1954 and on display in a museum up in Denver. Clay figured the smooth and Bearstone in his pocket. He wondered if it might really respect a grizzly, as Walter suggested. He remembered that old man especially honored grizzlies. Do you think there's any more grizzly bears? He asked. Don't know. Most likely not. It's been a bunch of years since they fall saw them. If that's what they were, if he was right, nobody killed him since the Cubs been in their crime now. Do you think somebody probably killed them? Not that anyone heard about. But if fellow was to kill one, he might not one since they're probably protected now. What's that mean, protected? On account of being endangered, that means there's so few of them that if anybody kills one, there might be none left. So it's against the law. For several hours they rode a snowslide canyon, crossing so many of the Y, the grassy paths among the sunlit and hulks of spruces right at their edges of the sky high above. At bottom of the ones, a avalanche chuties of old man found a big log and set up biscuits and canned pork for their midday hot meal. Walter pointed out the knee-high trees dotting the grassy road of the slide. When they just a bit bigger, they slightly knock them down. They never quit trying through. It's like building your own house on a road or track. Scanning the skyline, the old man looked upstream, a smile across his face as he pointed up the canyon. The peaks with the ridge around the top of the crown said strangely about the mine. The tunnels aiming for the contract of the solid gold, heart of the mountains and pride of the west. Clay thought about the heart made out of solid. It sounded like an awful cold heart. He didn't say so. What's a contract? He asked. A desert being of ore, is that what it is? One of a rock of gold is in? You see, gold is usually mixed with other minerals and veins that ruins a mountain. If you found a good dish or vein, it never caught on you like a fault in the will. A fault what leaves little pockets are all called strangers. You find one of them, dig it out, and mix the end of it with a good measure bin. You always has something to follow. It always nears you, maybe inches when you at the 8 feet or more. Clay realized he would actually be mining soon. Inside the mountain in the dark, up to now he thought about it hardly at all. The white mesa mostly thought of mining as a bad thing. Many of the youths worked out and on mines or shipping the pot. Uranium May got sick and died early, his grandmother said. She never said a gold made you sick, but then he remembered that she had said about the gold. It makes people crazy and dishonest. First, a lot of men promised the UT they could keep the mountains forever. That was before gold was discovered and the miners came pouring in. The white men forgot all the promise. The UTs were told to stay out of the mountains. They couldn't roam anywhere in the old way. They were given tiny reservations in the wild country and told to stay there and grow corn. You really think there's gold in your mine? He asked skeptically. Why, I know there is. I crossed the vein of the silvers already, but I didn't even bother to follow it. Cousin of those ways in Dover wasn't worth much to you unless it was real high grade on ore. I got a 300-foot tunnel in already, and I figure geology there can be more than few on a contract. It ain't really gambling, Cloyd. I thought, why, I already found a contact. You see, when the beam breaks and the surface lay in the mountain, it's titled at a pretty good angle. The data of the tunnel is reach inside the mountain and stupid at the surface. How come you didn't dig where you found it? Sure, wish I could have. It's better mine even sends upwards with gravity. I'll move your rock for you. Down Orchard's Chuties. It's too hard to move any constantly of rock upheld unless he got heavy mansionary. The dubious cast of Ecclesiastes told Walter he'd given a boy no feel of the joy working in hard rock. The throw of the blasting and turning the drift, always expecting to see the high-grade ore laid open. There's fabulous wealth in those mountains of clay, he whispered reverentially. And most of it haven't been discovered yet. Let me tell you about the Crescent mine up in the Cripple Creek district right there in Colorado. They're blasting the face of the tunnel. Found a village ravine and broke into a natural room 40 feet long and by 20 feet wide and 15 feet high. Rugged as it was, a giddy and cedar rock the howl in the middle of the crystals all around. That was in a big room, the giant gritty with the crystals sticking out of the cut of the four walls. The ceiling, everything was solid gold. It seemed to Walter's eye that he couldn't even now peer in the gold cave that he described. Clay could see how much it meant for old man, how his best to Walter, even though he sounded dark and cold and dangerous. That he would climb the real granny pyramid for himself. How much gold did they get from in here? He asked politely, as the old man came out of his reverie. I recollect it was $1.5 million out of the day's prize, $450 at once that be. $30-some million that for about one room. They continued up the canyon until Walter stopped at the bend of a trail and started across where the great pile of jumping to the mountainside. The pride of the West, Walter whispered. It took me nearly 40 years to get it back, but I finally made it. And my goodness, it doesn't look a bit different. Mountains don't get old very fast. Quite this mountains, it's like a blink that went out of a young man looks again and see me riding black aged. Walter Clay sat at the big sheep herder tent by a steam under a tall cluster of spruce once they had unpacked all the horses. Them and grass across the street, those a few rotted raw remained at old man's quarrel when they climbed up the slide or dump and gained the learning at the top of only to discover raw earth where the mine and trench should have been. Well, she caved in not so long ago, Walter said, disappointed yet calm. Just a portal clay, the toy spoil slipped in it's all be fine, once more visitor out of the way. It's all hard luck once you are inside, it will be there in drilling in a few days. Drilling? Quite as vastly. Quite more than he hoped Walter would just give it all up. Making holes in the rock pretty deep so we can slip in the diamond into the blast. We're going to have drilling the old way with the old and the holding and the bit and pounding and sledgehammer. Slow going, but it works. They'd quit drilling in a hand in 1870s. Way before my time, after a double in jacking. That's two men working, like I said, was only for drilling contests for fellows like me that didn't know any better mining back in the hills where you couldn't use machine drills. Drilling's hard work. Can you be dangerous too? Dangerous? One story I remember, there was two men working up high up in the scaffold in a big room inside a mine. And they were double-checking the face up there, it's been 25 feet up, and there was standing on one of the setting scaffolding, but in one doing the sludge work. He crashes down with it, and now his partner is turning to the, he grabbed the hole as still as he falling, and stuck good in the hole, or as he hanging for as petty as he pleased. He starts hollering to help the cords, only his buddies got nothing to help them with. There's nobody else around, so after about 5 minutes, the fellow can't hold on no longer. And she crashes down to his buddy, says, "Dang, I knew he was slow. But I have no idea how he take 5 minutes to fall off 25 feet. Is that a true story?" "Yes, sir, that's a true story." The old man was said that he stroked the rest of his chin, but quickly the ears turned red, his cheeks puffed and his out, and tried to hold his breath, keep from laughing. True? Pretty gravely, Walter's cheeks collapsed and his breath exploded. True. Then it's he said slapping his knees. Chloe didn't have to laugh too. It was good to be laughing with the old man. Okay, we're gonna stop right there, and we're like in the middle of the book, so I think we're like getting onto it. So I'll see you guys later in a part 5. Part 5 might be coming tomorrow. Peace.